Alt.
Ooh, that just got a lot better.
Did it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And my echo came back.
Oh God. Oh man. Okay. I think that might have solved it because so that was a local issue. Um.
Mhm.
Okay. There we go. 10 times better. Thank you, Niels. Okay. Cool. Okay. So I think that might have actually solved the problem. Um.
Hey, and
Okay.
I know Quasar said he's just here to watch, but Roberto and Niels, are you guys coming in? Or is that
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, in one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. One. Yeah. Just drop a message
Oh,
and
Juan's there
and
too.
let us know. Yeah, one's here as well.
Oh, great.
Um. Okay. So cool. So Quasar says he can jump in. Okay, cool, but not required. Okay, cool. Let's just sort of give sort of like 5 minutes and just go over what we're sort of hoping on achieving today, and then we can basically sort of invite folks on and have a broader conversation. Okay,
Beautiful.
so let's hide that and come back to here. So yeah, proto design. Yeah. So the intention here, I'm not sure whether to start again or anyway. Okay, cool. So anyway, hello and welcome to today's proto session. The idea here is to basically think out loud and look at sort of the big picture of design as it sort of as it relates to crypto and sort of decentralization and incentives. We're gonna, further down the line, we're gonna look at sort of different vectors or sort of different domains that we are in the next few weeks to months going to sort of be looking to foray into in a more sort of focused way. But yes, for today, broadly speaking, the intention here is to the intention here is to one, so 3 points, three. There we go. 3 points. Cover the sort of the metacognition nature of the proto aspirations here. So basically, thinking about thinking. The aim of with the aim of arriving at an optimal workflow, right? So this is possibly something which might actually be happening at the beginning of every proto session. Just the nature of thinking about how we're actually considering um, what we're doing here, right? Looking back at the last one and looking, because even with the nature of things, it might be that we actually end up doing some sessions in between the week, right? And then have like a sort of all together collaborative, sort of synchronous sort of session on Wednesdays, right before the Catalyst Town Hall. So that's the first point, thinking about thinking. The second point is the synthesis of live. So looking at the nature of sort of synchronicity and asynchronicity when it comes to co-creation, and what that sort of means in terms of the front end and the back end, right? Because front end, back end, this is again a concept which we've sort of expanded on in previous sessions, which we'll, I suppose, go over again on this particular session. But yeah, the idea of having the sort of the user interface and sort of the back end sort of code side of things, us looking at both of those things in tandem to just help expand the literacy, so to speak, of our audience, and to sort of to embolden them and empower them, to be like, oh, okay, oh, I can see how that works in the front. Okay, that button and that does that. Okay, cool. How does it work on the back end? Um, and not just sort of on the website, but also on the blockchain side, all the way, possibly all the way through to like um, you know, possibly Postgres queries, etc., etc. Yeah, just kind of having this sort of like cross section all the way through, like that's the sort of, the higher level action, all the way through to, it touching the database of the blockchain, and then sort of what then comes back, from that initial call. Yeah, so just thinking about the nature of working live, so front and back end, how do the graphic assets sort of evolve, as well as the back end? So like, how does, how, the versioning of it, right? So we're gonna look at the API side of things, right, with Roberto joining us, and sort of, looking at Dandelion and stuff. Probably not in detail on this particular session, but that's an idea that, we're sort of looking at iteration and versioning visually and in code. So that's a synthesis of live and what benefit it has to doing something not live and doing something live. And then last but not least, we've got the idea of identity, right? Roberto arranged a really helpful and productive call during the past week. I think it was maybe 2 days or maybe a day ago. Oh, time is just a weird concept to me. Yeah, so yeah, it's a really good session on identity, and the potential for wallets. So the third point here that I would like us to cover today is, yeah, the nature of identity, and the possibilities of actually realizing a kind of a DIY version of it, and then, gradually, over time, it being sort of, it achieving more veracity in terms of its sort of trustworthiness, right? Because obviously, most people think of, the offerings from IOG, like Atala Prism, right, which is the identity solution. They look at that and be like, yes, that's the official thing, right? But from these conversations, we realize actually there's a lot of value in actually just simply building something ourselves, and sort of like, gradually iterating on that, and having like a sandbox to play around within. Yeah, so those are the topics for today, the three sort of topics. So broadly speaking, so James, any sort of thoughts on those before we then sort of get into the first one, and sort of expand on that, and maybe invite a few more folks on to just kind of think on that?
These are great topics. Thanks for organizing this. The one thing I would just add is that Roberto's meeting, everybody the meeting that we shared yesterday, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday, that meeting came from the same place as Proto. Okay, so we version 0 of this was just getting together and talking in terms of local use cases and problem solving on Cardano, which led to this idea of live video for kind of modeling that process by doing it. And it left us wondering, hey, these kind of just open conversations where we come together to talk about particular use cases in a much less polished way than we're trying to do here. There was still an essential space for that. So it's just really cool that you named the value of that meeting, knowing that both this and that are kind of siblings with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. So shall we, let me see how to do this. So, yeah, so we shall gradually just, Juan and Roberto, are you guys okay to come on and sort of discuss the nature of thinking about thinking, I suppose, and then, yeah, sort of take it from there. Okay, awesome, cool.
Yes.
Let's get Roberto up. Hello.
Hi guys.
Hey.
Let me disable.
It looks a tiny bit less cold than yesterday.
Yeah, because I have some help today.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, cool. So, one, do you wanna join us, or are you okay? Just let me know. In the private chat, there's like a little button at the bottom left that if you click on it, it'll sort of bring up the chat, and just let us know in there. Right. So, Roberto, any thoughts on the, I suppose in general, just the topics, all three topics, from the meta thinking to the sort of synchronicity and identity. Any particular sort of thoughts that sort of jump to you that you wanna share?
Yeah, you triggered the behavior-driven development, which is a way to develop software that I always loved, which it's an outside-in approach where you define scenarios and features and then write some minimal tests and try to pass from red failing test to green, and somehow with this meta thinking, which I love. It's how I observe life, always in a meta wildcard thing. So somehow that's how I think about Proto. I mean, trying to blend the front end thinking with the back end thinking for people, but on an abstract way. It reminds me to describe scenarios or domains, and then go to solve small steps of the whole picture. Yeah, that's just my random thought about your introduction.
Cool, man. Yeah. That's really interesting because what's great about all of this is like I'd never come across that particular sort of like idea. I suppose maybe because I'm not that well versed in terms of development kind of stuff or programming. But it's interesting because with like humans, like oral languages, there are concepts which are quite universal. Like if you come across someone who speaks one language, or someone who is able to kind of understand, or say when people who do not speak the same languages sort of come together and have a conversation about the different languages, they come to realize, oh wait, so there's this concept exists in the language that you use, kind of thing. Yeah, cool. But I feel like James wanted to say something during that.
Dude, well, no, I always want to say something, but actually, can I share a story?
Please.
I'm a high school teacher for most of my career. I hope I don't have to keep repeating that, but like just in case we haven't met yet, that's been most of my life, and I've had the great privilege of teaching kids the concept of metacognition, and it goes whether it's that a language is foreign to you or you just don't know the word yet, right? Finding out that there's a word for that is a really groundbreaking moment. And there's lots of things that keep you energized when you're teaching, and for me, one of them every year was teaching 14-year-olds that there's this thing called metacognition, and to watch their faces go, wait a minute, you're right, I can think about how I think. And like you watch their face contort, and like just like you watch that, you're like watching their facial expression of their brain changing inside their head in that moment. And damn, like it's such a powerful moment, but it's also not binary, right? Like we're all on this journey of how much can I assess what I'm thinking about right now. So I just so deeply appreciate, that's where you chose to start the outline for this episode. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, teaching is one of those things where it's really fascinating because yeah, I've had the fortune of being in a similar position. Not quite, you know, an awesome story as that, but just seeing a young person sort of like go through that sense of discovery, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, in essence, like one of my hopes, with cast in general, you know, and I suppose maybe even more specifically with here within Proto, is to get to a point where, you know, we sort of transition from, or we get people transitioning from just kind of being on the sideline to making something, like, you know, and experiencing that joy. Like one of the biggest joys in life is seeing something that you made being used by someone else and them getting a benefit from it, and just sort of how, you know, see, you know, getting that sense of like, wow, like I made a change or a difference in the world. Like it went from just being merely an idea to have, you know, to being sort of a physical manifestation, whether it's in digital form or you know, like a physical product, and then to seeing them actually use it out in the world without them even saying, knowing that you were part of, you know, creating that thing. It's just like it's a feeling unlike none other that I've felt and that I believe sort of exist. So, you know, part of my, in a way, my reward in doing all this is just sort of, you know, getting feedback from people being like, oh wow, like, you know, this was really, like, for example, you know, one you know, mentioned, you know, James and had a conversation about Catalyst, and you know, and his experience through it, and you know, one gave you know, really good feedback that, you know, really just meant, you know, so much to me, and I'm assuming also to James, where, you know, it's about, again, kind of going back to what Roberta just said, it's about creating these incremental sort of sense of momentum, right? This feedback loop, right? A lot of people sort of suffer from having really, you know, really sort of long feedback loops, and then by the time they actually get the signal back, their motivation has sort of died away, right? So, you know, I'm just sort of, I suppose, sort of experiencing it personally, but also like that's part of my intention in all that, you know, I'm sort of pursuing here, to actually have, you know, this experience of getting someone to go from, oh, I couldn't be able to do that, and oh wow, I've actually programmed a thing which a whole bunch of people are using out there, right? Yeah.
There is another education story about that, if I could. The one, so from teacher school, the only name I really remember is Vygotsky, and his idea that he contributed that all teachers learn is called the zone of proximal development, right? So everybody has the core of what you do know, and then there's the wider world, everything that you don't yet know. And in between those two zones, there's a narrow band that represents any individual's zone of proximal development, right? Just like A was describing, like this is the place where you feel yourself learning and you're willing to keep going. And some people, just by their nature, have a wider zone of proximal development, right? That's we're all born with a certain size one. But of course, it's also elastic, okay? And so a really interesting, but also kind of exasperating ongoing debate in education is whether the role of a teacher is to throw a precision dart right at everybody's zone of proximal development, or whether the role is to ensure that every student's zone gets bigger over time, right? And depending on your philosophy on that debate, you're going to teach differently. So I very much come down on the side of making people's zone bigger. So I'm really excited, A, about the way you laid that out, because that's exactly what we're trying to do here. And it does require short feedback loops at first. We all have to appreciate that. People need small wins, right? And that's what, like, Niels is talking right now about conversational design for user interfaces. And that's exactly what a good user interface is going to do, right? It's going to get somebody to feel those small wins, so that their horizon gets bigger, and then obviously more can happen, and of course it's self-reinforcing too, right?
That's an awesome concept. How can we hack current systems like the systems, the social media platforms use into something that it's truly truly enrich people? How to convert those toxic dopamine discharge on something good.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
If
oh,
yeah, go
please.
ahead.
Now,
No.
the chatbots, I didn't think about them like that, but it's maybe it's a really good way to keep things going and keep that fast feedback going. And kudos in the development teams work really well for that. So yeah, we need to
Cool.
cocktail those things and bring up.
Yeah, and think about them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll just quickly bring our attention back to this bit here. Let me see what's the best way to present this. Yeah, no, we'll just go with that one. Boring. Okay, cool. So yeah, I just it feels like a sort of a right time to just kind of quickly jump into this this sketch of a sentence that I put together about the broad kind of idea here, that we're sort of going after. So the idea to create building blocks that show broad capabilities, right? The broad capabilities of crypto, right? Sort of cryptography and sort of, of secrets, right? The language of secrets, of decentralization, right? Of so decentralization here meaning, the opposite of centralization. Right? Basically, having a healthier, more manageable grouping of aspects of things in a way where decision making is healthier and has um, has more people with more at stake. So one could argue that the decision making is actually of a higher quality. And then incentives, right? So these are, so incentives talking about not just tokenomics, right? So, the tokens which are made within crypto, but talking about just human motivation, right? Like, for example, all that we just spoke about, and the example that James gave about, wanting to broaden, in a way, making shorter feedback loops and in a way making more generalists of people, because then, when a person specializes who actually started, off as a generalist, you get a much better specialist, right? Because it's about that kind of confluous nature of them, of how they think, right? Being able to, put together sort of disparate ideas, which, because that's what creativity is at the end of the day. It's about sort of putting together sort of disparate ideas in a sort of in a novel way, right? So yeah, so it's the idea of creating these building blocks that show the broad capabilities, but through a focused prism of a specific vertical slash domain, like, a sort of a local problem, or sort of, yeah, problem spaces. So that's the idea here, right? So not every idea or problem will be well suited for proto, right? Like, so this in a way is it's not the best sentence yet. We can, together, and I can basically refine it. But the idea is, again, to illustrate the broad capabilities, but through a focused way, right? Attacking particular sections, and in doing so, showing the cross section, right, of from the front end, from the user experience, all the way through to what happens technically to the, on the back end, sort of a thing. And then sort of moving on, this is actually something which I thought would be quite useful to do, just to outline. And I kind of did this just for myself, and I thought, okay, actually, it's kind of helpful to just break down, the five W's. Five W's. I find they usually tend to help you, sort of separate concerns, but also have a clearer understanding of, what exactly you're trying to achieve. So Proto's five W's, we'll start with why, then move on to the who, then the what, the when, ending with the where. So the why is, if I can get it to fit. Oh God, what's going on? There we go. Yeah, I did. Yeah, yeah. Aha, thank you. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. Problem solved. Yeah, I didn't want to sort of truncate it because of that, but that made sense to actually do it that way. Thank you very much, James. You see the value of collaboration and co-creation, right? So why? Address deficit, or address their deficit of skills to interest, right? Or put another way, problem solving capability to skills, right? There's often this sort of bereft ratio, and this is something which we're hoping to sort of address, because the idea here is that in addressing this sort of this disproportion, as we've actually highlighted in previous sessions, I think, where we sort of estimated it's like, as opposed to being a healthy, say something like 2080, like a Pareto's principle kind of distribution, it's closer to like 1 to 99, right? Where you have, the people who have both the skills on the front end and the back end, right? So the design, the interface design and user experience design, as well as the back end systems, coding of implementation. These people, are sort of fewer and fewer. So I think basically sort of like addressing that balance will result in more people living purposeful, productive lives, whilst creating value for not just themselves in doing so, but also for broader society. And then, so that's the why. The who is who are those who are not yet technically competent, but can be and are curious and interested, right? This is again something that we've covered in previous sessions. When we've spoken about who we're doing this for, right? We're not doing this for those who already are sort of technically minded, particularly, right? Because like they already have the skill sets, they already have the know-how and the ability to sort of dig into documentation and so on. So our primary audience isn't them, but those who aren't yet technically competent but can be, and maybe are sort of more design leaning, and are sort of scared by the code, or maybe are not even designing, but just in the real world, they they sort of are able to have a look at their local environment and see, oh, there's a problem, but feel like they don't have the skill, the tool set to actually be able to go out and actually solve these problems. So that's the who. The who. Moving on to the what, right? So the what is, I suppose, the artifacts resulting from what we're doing here. And the idea here is to have models, right? So mental models and just other models, which take the form of graphics and code, I suppose. Yeah, so that's the what, and then the when is Wednesdays prior to the Cardano Catalyst Town Hall. What today's conversation has taken place under the assumption that not a lot of people say would be turning up to this live and would sort of need to understand what Cardano or Catalyst is, but in the future, we'll sort of have boilerplate kind of thing to be able to actually to contextualize all of this quite well. And so that this time usually falls into, thank you, James, into around 1700 to 1800 hours UTC/GMT. And lastly, the where, right? The where is online here, basically, on cast.live, where you can then actually then be able to, in the future, to actually have, whenever this session is on, the idea is to actually have, say, for example, the link to the Figma, sort of dynamically using JavaScript, up here, in a sort of call to action at the bottom of the video that's actually playing of the session kind of thing, to basically sort of make it a rich experience. So yeah, guys, do you want to sort of expand or sort of touch on anything that you felt like I didn't perhaps sort of get to on those?
That was really well represented. Yep, that's the plan. Thanks, A.
Yeah, I will add the how,
Yeah,
and
Nice.
that's what we will be iterating on and trying to find the best models, right?
yeah, actually, yeah, I can just quickly do that here. Yeah, the how. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Wait, was someone else doing that, or was that me? Okay.
That's
Oh
you.
yeah. So okay. I was like, did I capitalize that? I don't usually capitalize things. Okay. Cool. Sweet. So we are actually gonna bring Niels in. Could you just turn on your camera? There we go. Okay. Cool. Yeah, so Niels, if you could, yeah, I'll bring you on in like a few seconds. If you could just sort of, I suppose, give some folks some context as to your background, because it's quite quite relevant to what we're speaking about here, and then perhaps yeah, like share some of your thoughts regarding what we just sort of spoke about just then.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Hey, Niels.
Well, first of all, this restream, it's really slow on my computer, so I don't see the video. I can hear you guys well, but is there an application I need to install to make it run smoother? Or
What browser are you on?
Chrome?
Ah, okay.
I'm using Brave, and it works smooth.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm on Brave as well, and yeah, it works quite well. Your camera is oddly sort of fuzzy as well. I don't know whether that's on purpose or,
I don't know.
yeah. But yeah,
I have a different setup for
fine.
next time, and we'll solve it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
I'm Niels. I'm from Amsterdam, Netherlands. I'm a senior user experience designer slash platform designer. Mostly big e-commerce kind of platforms for automotive paint companies, but also big product comparison kind of corporates. At the end of 2019, after e-commerce platform number 5, I was like, I've seen this. I mean, I think that hooks into the intent, purpose, and meaning we perhaps all try to find in life. And then I came in contact with D-Rock, which is an audio solution provider in Sweden. They do really cool stuff with audio processing to make it fit a certain speaker size, because it's really important that the signal which goes to the speaker matches up with the exact dimensions, materials, all kinds of acoustic stuff. So that was really cool. So that's what I did for a year. And I came in contact with Cardano in 2017. I think everybody did when Price skyrocketed. I was early. I was in April. And concerning this questions, yeah, it's pretty meta by itself. I think I can add I'm like the really practical guy. Like, define a really small thing, choose a dimension, choose a perspective, choose an incentive, choose a desired outcome, and create. And then use a like create test or create use test kind of approach. And this is something that developed obviously over the years. Front end, back end for me is like, sounds a bit like the 90s, to be honest. Because I think we need to start designing software in which we make like a pipeline of users instead of making a front end, a back end, or a front stage and a backstage. And this is obviously you see this happening in design software first, but I think there's a lot of innovation which can happen by pushing the problem through the network instead of like pulling problems into an organization or a group of people. Because then I think innovation happens with a lot of perspectives, a lot of hunches, a lot of rethinking. Yeah, that's me.
Cool.
And I have like 1,000 other things and stuffs and projects and ideas, and but that's for later.
Yeah, that's definitely for it. Yeah, so yeah, so actually, whilst we're at it, I feel like again, like most of how I work and cast and proto is very much about sort of being being quite jazzy with things, right, and sort of improvising as we go. So I feel like given that we're just about in about 15 minutes we're gonna be transitioning over to the town hall, and in that town hall we're going to be discussing what's it called, the Fund 3 sort of insights. You actually shared a really good one regarding interfaces and sort of conversational interfaces. Do you want to just sort of expand a little bit on that? And yeah.
Well, if you look at research data, like 70% of the world is using chat. A lot of energy is put into chat. But for some reason, and I know why, because it's the way how we organize our people and our businesses and skills and how we hire and all that kind of mumbo jumbo, old styles of project management, and everybody calls it agile, but in the end, it's not. And I think, and that's why I'm interested in Cardano as well. If you want to do really cool stuff, new stuff, you need to bring the programmer, the backend, as a more or less the what's the word? As I see backend more as a algorithm. And conversational design is something that kind of uses chat as a logic system, but it adds in choices. It adds in interactive modules in the stream of chat to achieve a specific outcome. And this can be a brand development step. It can be reviewing. I see the whole process for Voltaire, for example. It's an ideal example of a stepping stone process. But why pay for a proposal deliverable? I mean, why not pay for defining a specific desired outcome and pay for people contributing to getting to that outcome? I mean, that makes more sense in a swarm kind of environment for me. And that's what I kind of mentioned in my, our blockchain is making money fluid, but our interfaces are not. And page-based design is kind of, it's strange on the internet by itself, because in my opinion, the internet is meant to make people work together and not sell stuff we don't need. But that's kind of what became, what it became. And I think Cardano makes it possible to bring back ethics, to make money in a different way that kind of contributes to everybody.
Yeah.
I have some.
That's a really good.
I have some examples in my row. I shared something with James already, I think.
Okay, cool.
I'm working on at the moment this week. I'm trying to finish a video demo of what it entails, so you can just see it.
Cool. Awesome. Right. So, in the spirit of actually sort of keeping things jazzy, I'm going to I'm going to be bringing one on just to actually sort of cover one sort of last quick aspect, just to kind of in a way illustrate the diversity of the sort of minds that we're kind of going after and the problems that we're sort of looking to solve, right? So Niels, thank you very much for sharing. I think it would make sense for us to perhaps, so even, within the week, to perhaps, maybe do a proto session for even next Wednesday, just looking at sort of the nature of interface or interfaces, and looking at this particular problem which you addressed, which is how the internet just because of monetization just kind of got forced in into a particular form, and how we can avoid sort of going down that particular route as well. Cool. So thank you very much, Neil.
No problem.
Niels. All right, cheers. Okay, cool. So let's just scroll back here and bring this up. So excuse me. So now moving on to this final point. Yeah, today's conversation has kind of been a bit of a interesting just mesh.
Jazzy.
Yeah, so exactly. Jazzy. So I feel like we've actually we've touched on the sort of the meta nature. We've touched on in a way the synthesis of live in some way as well. So now I'll just sort of jump over to the last bit here, identity, and to get us sort of kicked off. If Roberto, if you don't mind, could you just sort of share some ideas around around your learnings from the conversation that we had yesterday with Kyle, Noah. Is it Kyle or Noah? I'm not sure.
Kyle.
Is it Kyle? Okay, Kyle. Yeah. If you could just share sort of your learnings from that, and share with us, specifically sort of like technically how we could perhaps start to explore this idea of kind of like a DIY sort of did solution.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
And what did you say? Big question.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, okay. Okay. I'm gonna make it even more difficult. If you could do that in like 3 or 4-ish minutes, because of time. And then I want to be able to have one come on, and then basically once we've talked about the sort of identity element, just to have one come on and talk about the conversations, give like a a brief sort of summary of the conversations that we've been having in the context of the parent teacher improving the sort of parent teacher experience.
Okay, so I think I can do it. So yes, as a brief introduction, I've been working with Kyle, who is interested on making a light wallet. Let's call it a proto wallet, because his aiming is not to make the perfect wallet, but to have different pieces that can be put together today with metadata, with multi-assets, multi-signature. That's possible today at the blockchain level, and he just wants to leverage all those features on utility on a tangible way. So we've been thinking about identity. We know we will have a Tala Prism, which will be an enterprise-grade level solution for identity for governments, for citizens, and for very, very hard stuff to solve. But we've been thinking about what's identity, what could, for example, serve as identity for not so complex scenarios like, I don't know, a game. In a game, we could have NFTs for weapons, and we could have some kind of identity plugged to your Keybase account, your Twitter account. You could today with metadata and cryptography, signatures, hashes, just to mention words that any word I think someone will understand. We could have some kind of identity implemented today, and we are trying to solve that problem with PGP. We are thinking about implementing NFTs with the tokens, adding metadata to the minting transactions for those tokens, and the transaction the distribution transactions of those tokens. Yeah, that's, I don't know if that was 3 minutes, but that's more or less what we were talking.
No, that was actually really good. That was good. So carry on.
Yeah, just the multi-signature, I left that one behind. Well, that could add a security layer to all those things. Let's say you have some asset in real life or video game that will need to be authorized by 3 people to be transferred or whatever. We have multi-signature for identity or deeds, land deeds or whatever. We already have that feature, and we can leverage it.
Okay, cool, awesome. So one sort of last quick question before I bring Juan on. What form does this would this take? Because I feel like my understanding is that it's an Electron wallet, so I'm assuming most of the backend will kind of be web technology based. So technically, it could be able to be ported into a browser extension.
Yep. Actually, we are not using native JavaScript or TypeScript libraries that or Rust that could be run on the browser, but there are libs for that. We are using binary, so we are limited to Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. But yeah, anyone is welcome to port that part into JavaScript.
Cool.
With the libraries from Emurgo, from Vacuum Labs, the builders of Adalite wallet. There are libraries out there. So we just went let's say on the fast lane.
Yeah. Cool, awesome. Thank you very much, Roberto. Okay, so Juan. Hello.
Hey, Juan. So happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, let me start really fast. And basically what I want to say is that I've been in this history, in this process of life with, I have 3 kids, one 29, Paola, my daughter Juan is 29, Paola 27, and Sarah 13. So that gives me the possibility to be in 2 different ages at the same time, even though I'm a baby boomer, 57. So it's been really fun because I've been experiencing too many things and involved with many other things as far as business and personal life. So I just see the importance of motivating families to interact with children in their school life via, and I think that we can do something related with to accomplish this via rewards, tokenized redemption program or something like that. And the words that come to mind, is motivation, chain, token rewards, consensus, choices, involvement, parent, school, academics, school life, adolescence. And then the choices, one important thing is that the choices define our future. And then we have a full suite to get advice. Every time we make decisions, we will make the minimum mistakes and we'll have a more satisfactory life. Generally, that happens when parents are close to their children. So I think the problem that I want to address is parents' priority to have their kids as a priority. Still at middle school, children start to feel the need of independence. Parents generally, with the help of the school teachers, understand their children are growing, and many just leave them alone. Children at that age still need a lot of support, especially when they are entering a total new territory of interactions with their classmates and teachers. I don't know if that defines the problem. I'm in the process of doing that. And yeah, we have 1 minute.
Yeah.
1 minute
cool.
left.
Juan, thank you so much for that actually quite well kind of succinctly illustrates in a way, you know, conversations which we've had and the importance of family and education, and you know that kind of the sort of mentoring relationship that you know the parent shares with the with the child, but also in a way, you know, that the child shares with a teacher. So you know it's kind of like it's a good kind of three sort of different party what's it called stakeholders who all form an interesting sort of triad of relationships, right? You know, where you have, you know, a child going from home in a way to the outer world, and you know, to be able to do that in a sort of trusted and you know, sort of safe environment, but you know, safe, not, you know, to sort of take away all the sort of all the problems, so to speak, but you know, retaining, you know, the problems which are healthy, right? Healthy problems is taken away unhealthy, if I could put it sort of for lack of a better word, bluntly in that way. So cool. Guys, in the interest of time, it's been a really awesome session despite the technical difficulties. I just want to thank every single one of you for your time, and you know, thinking that, you know, there's value here, you know, in what we're doing. Yeah, so thank you for your time and your, you know, your continued interest. If I does anyone want to say quickly say something, or can we just end it at that?
That's great. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, awesome, cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, guys. See you
There
later.
is a lot more to say, but there will be time for that.
Can't wait for
Exactly.
next time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
That's
Cool.
right.
Thank you very much, everyone.